Sancho to score. No mistakes this time.
That is a rocket.
Royce and another fantastic goal by Marco Royce. Haaland's volley is beautiful beyond compare.
Jetzt kommt das Wunder von Dortmund. Foulspiel von hinten an Götze.
Needs to lay it off. We're going to shot away. Oh, what a goal!
Welcome back to Dortmund Dispatch. Today I'm joined by Joseph Meyer, and we want to start off by just wishing the best to our current captain, Emre Can. Even if we haven't always spoken positively of him, no one deserves such a significant injury. Dortmund, though, significantly injured by this week, and we're going to start off talking about Atalanta beating Dortmund 4-1, as Dortmund gift Atalanta a place in the Champions League round of 16. You have any thoughts on that?
I do have a few thoughts, and I generally try to stay fairly positive about Dortmund on this show, and I think I'll finish the episode positive, but I do have a little bit of a rant to make here about this Atalanta match, so I'm gonna do my best to keep it brief and just try to get it out of the way now. This was a horrific match, and in a lot of ways, one of the worst that I've seen from Dortmund in a long time. And so much of it came down to individual flubs. And we can talk about Rami Bensebaini kind of gifting a couple of goals. The play at the end, whether that's a penalty or not, there was a bit of blood. So that when there's blood, the benefit of the doubt's going to go to the player who's bleeding, probably. But that Bensebaini was put in that position by Kobel, though. I mean, it was a horrible clearance, and we were so close to extra time and kind of had Atalanta on the back foot with Adeyemi running circles around their younger players who came on to relieve the veteran defenders. We can talk about Guirassy, who, he had like a complete air swing of his foot right in front of the goal. That should have been an easy finish. And at this top level, that's kind of unacceptable. There are a couple times where Felix Mecha made these no-look passes to absolutely nobody. And the no-look pass is a great asset to have as a player. And we've seen Mecha make a few of these before, but in this game, it was like his awareness of his teammates was nowhere. And I think that I'm upset about this match because as fans, we deserve better from Borussia Dortmund. This entire Champions League campaign has been pretty lackluster. We had, I think, 3 wins in the group stage, or I guess the league phase, I should say. But this was also the third game that we've conceded 4 goals in this Champions League campaign. There was the 4-4 against Juventus, the 1-4 against Manchester City, and now a 1-4 against Atalanta. I don't really blame the tactics too much in this game. Yes, Atalanta pressed us really well in the first half. Not sure we were quite prepared for that, but at the same time, it was a lot of individual errors that really gifted Atalanta this game. And again, as a Borussia Dortmund fan, we just deserve better. I think even if this had been a hard-fought game where Atalanta shows up and they strike magnificent goals, and we can say, okay, we were outplayed. Atalanta outplayed us. Fair game. But in this instance, we did this to ourselves. I didn't really like the context surrounding this game with the sort of bizarre nature of like Italian authorities not allowing certain Dortmund ticket holders into the country. It all just seemed kind of dubious and weird, so there are no fans in the stadium. But still, even without our fans, we still deserve better because there were a lot of fans watching this game. And we know it's a big financial blow for Dortmund not making it to the last 16. And it's just a shame that we're out of both cup competitions at this stage. I think we're 11 points off of Bayern at the top of the table. We're not really going to challenge for the title. I think we're 8 points clear of Europa League qualification, so I'm not terribly worried about falling out of the top four. Um, it's we just kind of have to change my mindset about the season at this point in terms of you know when we're in a competition like Champions League, and we already know that we didn't beat Leipzig, so even with a win against Bayern, the chances that we were going to catch them were still pretty slim. So why not go all out against Atalanta? Um, why not? And if that was going all out, then we failed miserably. So I think that's about all I have to say on that matter. Glad to put this one behind us now, and the still lost against Bayern, but I do think that was a more positive display. So, um, what are your thoughts, Eli?
I'm just trying to get a word in, Joey. I'm just trying to get a word in. There's not a lot that you did not cover, but I think there is some context I can provide. So specifically, Gregor Kobel this season has been very positive by goals prevented, post-shot XG in the Bundesliga. But in the Champions League, there's a very significant negative swing in the other direction. So basically, he's been about average just from shot stopping. However, it's all the positives are in the Bundesliga, all the negatives are in the Champions League. And when you're talking about the type of variance that's essentially it's 2.7. Like that's how many goals he's essentially costed us in the Champions League. That's very easily the difference between like us playing Atalanta or us playing one of like the teams at the bottom where you can get some of the weakest sides, like Bayer Leverkusen, for instance. They got Olympiacos. Newcastle got, what was it, Karabag, and they won 6-2. Like 3 goals could have very easily given us the points to finish much higher in the table and not have to play a very good team. Like Atalanta is not a Champions League, but they're a European knockout stage regular over about the last decade, because they were starting to become good when I was about 16 and I'm now 10 years older than that. So yeah, this result didn't surprise me. I said it at the last match, like if you go up 2-0 early, you have to keep attacking. You have to really make it, like, put the tie to bed, because at 2-0 you had to score in this match, and we did score, but it comes a little late. There's the big miss from Guirassy, which doesn't show up in the XG, which makes it look a lot worse, because that would have been worth probably about 0.4 to 0.6.
Yeah.
And then, like, with the penalty, like, 0% on Bensebaini. I think the deflection, like, he's getting memed a little bit too much. The performance wasn't, like, that terrible outside of, like, the first one, you could say. And even there, it's like, he's got to make an interception. He should probably get a little bit more of the ball, but I don't really care about this. There was kind of a decision made where, like, people are talking about, like, the depth where, like, we didn't replace Anselmino, and then, like, a spurt of injuries happened, obviously, which makes that decision look worse. And that is definitely related, where, like, you lose a body, everybody plays more minutes, everybody has to come back from injury faster, and they get all injured. But I don't think that I disagree with the club's decision. Like, the value the club got out of that decision was 10 million, and I don't, like, roughly 10 million, because you sell Gross, you don't replace Anselmino, so you save about half of whatever they were paying him. So you save 6 million on Gross, you save, let's say, like 3 million on Anselmino. That's basically the difference of the amount of money we would have been guaranteed by winning this tie, is that like 9 to 10 million. Especially you also get off Gross's contract for next year, which is another 4 million. So like the club guaranteed the amount of money. The club was not winning the Champions League this year. This is a bridge year. It like no one came into this season expecting the team that just scraped a fourth place finish last year to finish second. Like I was literally this is my one rant. It's about people's like reactions to stuff because the club last year was in fourth and everyone was like, "Oh, maybe we'll finish second next year. Like that would be a good return." That's what we're getting. That's what you asked for. Like I literally got in arguments in the DC fan group chat over the summer because I was like, Dortmund are a lock to finish second because Niko Kovac is competent and they have the second best squad, and that's what's happening. And I was like, in 2 years, we'll see what this club actually looks like. And now I think in about 12 months, we'll get to see what the club actually looks like because there's a lot of players that like you weren't changing last year. But now, this summer, you might like they were terribly run for about 2 or 3 years, like post Bellingham, or even the summer leading into it. Actually, no, I think it's only really the two nightmare windows where they signed everyone Terzic wanted and then everyone Shaheen wanted, and both those coaches suck, and there's a reason they're not employed right now. Like, you know what I mean?
I do. I certainly rate Terzic quite a bit higher in the conversation than Shaheen because at least there was a semblance of stability under Terzic.
There's levels to sucking, Joey.
I'd say he
didn't
may have
distinguish them, but they're there.
So he may have been riding on vibes at times, but those vibes did almost get us a couple titles in the end, and technically he did deliver us our most recent title, which is a little sad to think about. Shaheen just ran the club into the ground. But I do think that there has been a lot of positive development under Kovac this season. I do think a little bit, as you were just on your little rant, was thinking about how Pedro will frequently say that, there's a much higher floor for a coach like Niko Kovac, where there's not really a risk of dropping out of Champions League qualification. That's not something any of us are worried about this season. But then there's the question of how far he can take us. And I don't see any reason at this point. I mean, even given our poor Champions League campaign, I still don't really see a reason to look for a different coach at the moment, especially with a higher level of stability under Kovac, because he is much more, in the end, much more competent and tactically astute than Terzic, I suppose. And I think we're seeing him grow a little bit as he has gotten to know the squad. So I'm really curious to see what he can do perhaps next season with a few transfers that are maybe his preferences, because we have had to make do with a couple of long-term contracts that were players that were perhaps not the greatest fits from those windows that you talked about with Terzic and Nuri Sahin, respectively. Because I mean, at times I've thought, like, what can this team do if we have a consistent number 9? And I mean, Guirassy, for as talented as he can be, that he's gone long stretches this season where he hasn't done much. I've thought about, what if we have another defender in the mix, or a solid attacking midfielder who can stay fit, Carney Chukwuemeka type player, but one who's going to be consistent and fit, or even adding a winger.
He's missed like 2 games this year. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, okay. I'm being a little harsh on him, probably because he's not getting the minutes that I was hoping.
Carney Chukwuemeka is at a league. Oh, sorry, my Carney Chukwuemeka agenda this season, it's completely flipped on its head from last year. Carney Chukwuemeka is literally at like his career high for minutes played. He's way over it. He's blown it out of the water this season. He's at 674 minutes in the Bundesliga, whereas previously he'd never hit 500 minutes before in the league. Still not a big number for a 22-year-old, but in the Champions League he has another 221. He's going to finish on 1,000 minutes for the first time in his career at just 22 years old. And as like a big guy, sometimes it's like a little harder to find your footing. And like if he's giving us 1,000 minutes, I like that's not what I would have expected. I'd like to see him start a couple games. He got his first midfield minutes against Atalanta, and he was cooking. He was probably the best Dortmund player on the day outside of Karim Adeyemi. So
I agree. I agree with that. Um, but I guess my point in the depth issue is like I feel like we need a strong number 10 who can start so that Julian Brandt can be the backup. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Brandt, but we know that he's not the best when he plays every 3 to 4 days. And there's a good chance we're going to sign him on a contract extension. And I would love Carney Chukwuemeka to be that player, but I'm not convinced, I suppose, that he is that player. And I know he's a bit of a different profile as well. But I guess the point that I wanted to make earlier was that it doesn't feel like we have the depth right now to be able to compete in 3 competitions. And like you mentioned, there's several players who are definitely leaving this summer. And I mean, I'm curious to see what kind of transfer window we have because I do anticipate we're going to make several signings this summer. I mean, I think
yeah,
it's
I
going to be
think
a big window.
yeah, I think Garasi just like isn't a fit with the attackers around
Hmm.
him. Because like with Brant, he could be a fit if we were playing a 4-2-3-1, but we don't have the midfielders for it. Brant and Garasi both have to be rotated. So like there's an issue where we have the numbers in attack, but we have this issue where two of our attackers are both guys that can't play 3 times in a week.
Hmm.
So they need to both be rotated. You drop one for one, you drop the other for the other, then it's like you're getting complications in terms of like the squad fit. And then like even against Bayern, there's like this issue where like we play our fast 3 attackers, but then that like the changes we can make only work if we're chasing the game. Like you bring on Garasi at the end of the Bayern game. Perfect segue for me, by the way. Um, but you want to bring him in if you're chasing Bayern and if you're losing the game and you're going to be pushing into their final third. But if it's level or if you're winning, he's not going to do the things you need, and so you don't have the fresh legs to replace him. To replace any of the things that the players on the field are doing to kind of like maintain that or improve it with just similar quality fresh legs. Um, Fabio Silva is like good, but he's not good enough to like rotate him. And also, um, if you put him in for Garassi's gonna throw a fit, and that's gonna upset the clubhouse. So that's like very difficult for Kovac to do. So I don't really know if there's a solution aside from some player turnover. Uh, and like any club would need player turnover, and you got a lot of wages coming off the books this summer, so we'll see what they do with it. But I think it's an exciting time to be a Dortmund fan. Um, Even if we're talking about 2 losses on this one.
Yep. And I also think that, I mean, given the point of the season we're at, it's early March. We're not challenging for the title. We're not going to fall out of Champions League qualification. Let's get some youth players in there. Start thinking about next season. And we did see a couple. Inacio got I think his debut over the
Yep,
weekend.
his
Um,
pro debut. Like
his
he's never played professional football before. He's played semi-pro in the fourth tier. I believe he's made his debut for the second team, but I might be wrong on that. Like I'm not even sure he's one of the guys that's really featured for him. He certainly hasn't played a lot. If he has, I think this might have been his first like senior match of any kind.
I kind of feel like let's get these guys some minutes now, get them some experience with the first team, playing competitively against other Bundesliga teams, see who seems to fit in and who might be like an actual prospect for an academy player turned Borussia Dortmund starter next season, perhaps. I mean, we'll see if what happens because Kjell Vetjen is supposed to come back this summer, right? Or is his loan for 2 years? It is just one. Or
No,
is this the end of two?
it's 1 year. But for those of us that are keeping track, I'm not really sure where he's going to fit into the squad. This is a player who, in the last couple weeks, has fallen out of favor a bit at Bochum, who are like mid-table second Bundesliga team at this point. And he didn't even come off the bench this weekend. When he has played, he's played right wing. One of the reasons he's not getting a chance in midfield is because Bochum just have a couple U20 or U21 German international youth international prospects. So like he's not getting a chance there. So he's kind of been put on the right wing. He's not a right winger. So I don't really know. It's hard to see him kind of like the stats are all over the place because the roles have been all over the place. He's played 10, he's played right wing, he's played right mid, he's played right back. Like I think I'd like to see him as like the backup right back next year, but also like he hasn't necessarily shown the level to do that for Borussia, to be trusted with enough minutes to do that for Borussia Dortmund next year. So I don't really know what I want to see there.
It's a good question because there's also the Tom Rotha question because he has a buyback clause in his contract, and that would technically be active this summer as well, right?
Yeah, but that's a guy who's been injured for several months now. Like he hasn't even touched the pitch. I don't even think he's touched the bench in the second half of the season. And again, you have a guy who's playing very differently than he would play for Borussia Dortmund because Union Berlin just play in a way that is antithetical to what Tom Rotha's good at. Like they're not trying to let their players get forward in transition. Their strikers are fairly like useless outside of pressing. They don't really score. They don't really shoot. Ilias Jansa is like interesting as a guy that like runs and has scored bangers, but he's not like shown there's a reason he's not starting every game. Like they don't have any attack. They don't let their left back attack. They don't let their right back attack. Like Tom Rotha's best skill that we've seen at any level is when he was in the second Bundesliga and he was a flying wingback. We haven't seen that at Union because that's not how they play. So maybe Tom Rotha still has those skills and he can come back. He's improved defensively, which you can say he has at Union. So maybe he comes back, he looks better defensively, and he's still got the cross on him. He's still good at everything there. He's going to be a set-piece threat, both taking and on the end of him, because he's still 6'4", Joey. That I know.
That's
but
true.
This is a guy
Big guy
who's been injured for a while, and when he's playing, he's not playing in the style that he would for Borussia Dortmund. So it's like it's a cheap gamble, but the minutes just aren't there, and it's the buyback clause is still going to be active next summer. So I honestly almost wait a year, depending on like their scouting. If he comes back from injury, like they haven't even like what I've looked on SofaScore, they don't and Transfer Marks. They have it as like unknown injury. Like, what does that mean? What is wrong? Because if you don't know what's wrong, you can't sign him.
Yeah, that's the unknown injury is always a curious one. But then on left back, we also have Reggiani.
Well,
so
it's Kawa Prates. Reggiani's only played on the right side.
Oh, my mistake.
We have Almugera Kabar. Is that who you're thinking of?
No, I was thinking of Reggiani against, against Atalanta, but I guess that was the right side. It was their left flank of attack.
Yeah, Tom Rotha's only played 540 minutes this year.
Ooh, that's not much.
Yeah, I honestly like if you can get him for well under the release clause, then I think he's worth the gamble. But that release clause is way too much for what he's shown this year. The injury, I have no idea what it means. Um, it's just a weird one because like if you're an attacking wingback who excels at crossing, why are you going to Union? They don't they don't play with the ball.
Yeah.
Last year he had a much better season. He did play. He got about 1,600 minutes last year. But yeah, his age 21 season, he's kind of like just not
I,
played. He wasn't playing enough when he was fit. Now he's not fit. It's a weird one.
that's
You have Kaua Prates, who's coming over from Brazil. Brazil's a real league, but you haven't seen enough from Daniel Svensson to kind of want to run that out again every single game next season if Kaua Prates isn't ready.
yeah,
And he's
Svensson needs some relief
there.
too.
Yeah, and Almugera Kabars played every game for the second team, but that's a guy who we were ready to sell to Hamburg until he didn't pass his physical, I believe it was. So that's all over the place. Let's quickly go through the match events against Bayern Munich because that match did happen.
It did.
We're talking about what really matters though, the rest of the season. So Schlotterbeck almost gets a red, whatever. They got the call right, yellow card. Schlotterbeck scores the opener. Bayern equalize. Schlotterbeck gives away a penalty. Do we want to talk about that? I feel like I've seen that not be given. But I've never seen it not be given against Bayern. But I don't want to sound like a broken record.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I mean, I yeah, I unfortunately, I wish I could just blame the ref because I do think Sven Jablonski's kind of an idiot. Um, but
been suspended for match fixing before. That's all I'm saying.
has he? I thought that was
I
just
think he's the
Zweier.
one.
That was Felix Zweier.
Oh, okay. Bad sources. They were drunk at the time. I can
Now,
never remember which guy it is.
Jablonski, I just find he frequently like looks away from the action, and then these fouls happen that he just doesn't call because he doesn't see it, which is what you're supposed to be doing if you're a ref. Unfortunately, I do feel like that is probably going to get called as a penalty, like 8 times out of 10.
I think that's fair.
It's Bayern, of course. It's gonna get called, yes. But a bit reckless from Nico though.
Yeah.
I don't think that it was unnecessary. And I think he got faked out a little bit, and
Oh,
yeah,
for sure. I mean, he shouldn't be. You don't want to see him exposed in that much space in the box. Defensive breakdown there for sure. You're hoping he bails you out. He's bailed us out a lot of times this year, but not there. Then Dortmund go up the other way, and we get an equalizer from Daniel Svensson, who we did say less than positive things about already on this episode. But
that was a good
then
goal
later
there.
in later in the match, Kimmich scores a half volley straight into the upper 90. Wish I could hit a ball like that. Young Joshua Kimmich very mad at old Joshua Kimmich for doing that. But
Yep. Yeah,
he's no longer a Dortmund fan, I would imagine.
probably not. I mean, got to give
Yeah.
credit where credit's due, I suppose. It was a really good strike out of the air like
Whatever.
that. I mean, it's like, come on, man.
Uh,
uh, anyway,
oh, look at me. My shirt's tucked in. Pep used to yell at me when I was 21, and now I do everything perfectly. Shut up, dude.
still a little sore about that time he stomped Sancho in the Super Cup and
Yeah.
got away with it scotch-free.
Yeah. Well, Nico Schlotterbeck said on the game it was an all-in game for us. You can't accuse us of not doing enough. We tried everything, but unfortunately we did not manage it. In the end, Bayern scored one more goal. It was very, very slight contact for the penalty. Of course, we would have liked to have had a penalty too. It's just annoying to lose here. It looks like we've lost our captain as well. It just wasn't our day today. Dude, I don't.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh.
Of course, it wasn't our day. That does sum it up, I guess. I mean, I'm I I feel at least a little bit relieved that both games against Bayern this year have been competitive, and it's like I like to think we're past the days now of these like 3-0, 4-0, 5-0 games where we go to Munich, we get crushed. Bayern comes to our stadium, we get crushed. Um, we did get one win against them last year, I think, and these were both competitive games. We lost the one in the fall, I think 2-1. This one was 3-2, which I guess I got the score prediction right, just the wrong winning team. But we can be hopeful, and it is a game of fine margins. I mean, that goal was in the 86th or 87th minute. It came down to the end, and unfortunately, we couldn't scrape a point out of this. Um, Even with the win, I don't think we were challenging for the title, but it still would have been nice to. It's always nice to beat Bayern. Who am I kidding?
Let's get into our star of the week because we've been talking for a long time. Joey, do you have a star of the week?
I do. It is Samuel Inacio. Forgive me if I mispronounced that, but it's our 17-year-old who did make his professional debut, as you mentioned, against Bayern Munich. I think that to make your debut in Der Klassiker as a 17-year-old, um, that must feel absolutely amazing. And I hope that it gives this kid some motivation to make a name for himself at this club. It's kind of clear from what some of the Atalanta officials were saying before the previous match that they're still a bit sore over the fact that Dortmund was able to sign this guy from their academy, I think. Um, so, yeah, he's my star of the week. Just really happy for him. Glad he got some minutes. And it's awesome that they were against Bayern.
But yeah, Inacio is a great prospect, and I think the pace is a little bit of a concern out wide. He's been playing the 10 more for the U19s, and what I'd really like to see him do is kind of play that Chukwuemeka role and see Chukwuemeka get more and more minutes in midfield, because I don't want to see some of these guys that I don't think are a part of the next Borussia Dortmund title winning team. And that's a guy like Marcel Sabitzer. Marcel Sabitzer this summer will only have $7.5 million left on his contract. And I think that Dortmund would rather sell him for a reduced fee or like kind of pay him off a little bit to kind of move on and get like the right bodies in the squad in the right places that are going to make the difference in the next title map. But we have Dud of the Week, and Joey, you're not going first because I need to get a rant out.
Do it.
This week, nightmare for Gregor Kobel. Nightmare. Coming into it, he was like -2 in 9 games in the Champions League. Bad for his expected like goals prevented. Or like just to see if he'd prevented goals, he'd prevented -2. He'd cost us 2 goals in like 9 Champions League games. Cost us about 0.71, in particular like the Scamacca chance that's very central. He could have done better there. There's like the deflection. Does he commit early? It's hard to say that's on him, but like overall, I don't think he needs to go down so early on that one because of how easy of a save it would have been. And then he'd be able to react a little bit better to the deflection, but he was kind of cheating down. The bigger one's the Scamacca one. He's about -0.7 in that match. What's he against Bayern? -0.6. That's
not a good
rough.
look.
That's like he essentially went from being a marginal positive, and also this is just shot stopping. He's at fault for the penalty. Like,
Oh yeah, that 100%. He put Bensebaini in that position.
yeah, not for the first time too. Gregor Kobel, get your shit together, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean that's not.
are you? We're talking about guys. Are they going to be a part of the next Dortmund title winning team? Gregor Kobel had a bad season last year by every statistic because he can't pass the ball with his feet. We know that. He's made that abundantly clear. And if you're not going to be a significant positive as a shot stopper, you're not going to play for Borussia Dortmund for very long. And if you can get one of these big offers for Gregor Kobel, why wouldn't you take it? But, like, who's going to come in and give you that when now Gregor Kobel, like I talked about, coming into this week, he was positive in the Bundesliga. He's still positive, but it's not by as much as it's barely by over what he's at in the Champions League. He's minus 2.7 in the Champions League. He's only plus 2.9 in the league, Joey. He's plus 0.2 between the league and the Champions League. That's not good enough. And then if you look in the cup, you look at that game against Leverkusen, the goal we conceded?
Yep.
That's questionable. So we're talking about in matches against good opposition, Gregor Kobel's a negative.
It's the second time this season that he's caused his teammate to get a red card. Because he also had a horrible pass that essentially, the one with Job a few months ago. And yeah, it's another big match where Kobel is kind of choked, and it's unfortunate. I do know of a certain Heidenheim shot stopper who might be hoping he gets his chance. Because I know Deont Ramay is doing quite well. However, his total shot stopping, considering how many shots are fired at any Heidenheim keeper.
So if you look at Kobel's overall, like we just talked about, he's like plus 0.2 if you take into account the Champions League and the league. Ramay's only about 0.9, and he's not that much better with his feet. So like I think if you're selling Kobel, you want a bigger upgrade there. Ramay's 24 now. He's been 24 since September, so he's turning 25 early next season. This is a guy who should already be in his prime. It's not like there's going to be maybe there's a significant jump there, but there's not a big enough reason for you to believe that there will be a big enough jump. So he's like, I don't know. Like Gregor Kobel's at least like saved some penalties, whereas this year Ramay is 0 for 6, which is like,
that's fair.
Like that's the one thing I'd say for Kobel,
that we put past him, I think.
We did.
Well, I say promote Alexander Meyer. He's been solid when he's needed to fill in for Kobel. But I do see what you're saying, because
he's been solid for a backup.
For sure. But if we do want to be competing at the top level, we certainly need a world-class keeper. And I do feel like Kobel has had higher quality than like Roman Bürki and Marvin Hitz, but a few of these
now we're comparing
really
to two guys that were consistently negative. Like
fair. Well, I'm trying to think like who else I could compare him to, and then if we go before Bürki, it's Roman Weidenfeller, and Weidenfeller was a great keeper, minus maybe his final season or two.
Yeah, until he was basically like half retired, and he was just around for his leadership and professionalism. He was better. And Gregor Kobel has so far had like an above average season, one good season, and other than that he was poor last year. I think he actually ended the season on a hot streak, but like he was poor for most of the season. He ended the season in an okay place, but like this is the second best paid goalie in the league, and he's shown that 1 year. So like I can't say he's never shown it, but like that was 3 years ago now. Show me something, Joey. Who's your dud of the week?
Sort of going with the theme of my rant earlier, my dud is the entire Borussia Dortmund team, and that includes all the players except Inacio. He's my star. Includes all the players. It also includes the entire hierarchy. They all just, for having their thumbs up their asses or whatever they've been doing the
Oh
last
my
few
God.
months. The only person that I'm like I don't really feel that ticked off by is actually Kovac. I I'm actually,
Adeyemi scored a
Kovac is
nice
all
goal.
right.
He
You know what?
did well.
Adeyemi's not on my shit list.
Chuck Wameka he was out against Bayern and he was very good in his cameo.
Yes, but
This is harsh.
they're all part of the locker room, and that's my negative for Kovac is the locker room. The locker room talks in both games should have inspired better. I don't know. We did play decently against Bayern. I'm not really upset about that one. I don't know.
Uh,
They're all duds. Come back next
okay.
week.
Next week we have Köln versus Borussia Dortmund. Köln's star player is Said Al-Mala. He starts only some of the games though because he is what's known as a child. Sorry, I wanted to make a joke, but it had political implications, so I backed out. Because it would need
That was a good choice.
prior approval from our legal team. But yeah, he's young, so they're being responsible and not playing him every game. So I would expect him to start because I don't think he started last week. So I think they'll be up for it because of that. It's always fun to play Köln. Good team, great fans there. That's your only player to watch. Jacob Kaminski's also not bad. Borussia Dortmund better win this game or I'll actually be annoyed.
I think we will. I mean, I kind of feel like we're probably going to go back to the basics, where back three. It's going to be Guirassy up front with probably Brandt and Bayer also
and
playing.
Brandt, yeah.
Yep. Adeyemi will come in somewhere between the 72nd and 80th minute unless we're trailing. I don't know, but I think it'll be a, dare I say, straightforward win. Is it ever?
Yeah. I think that we'll start to see some guys get earlier substitutions because I think that there's going to be a little thumb on the scale from the management trying to get in some of these academy kids.
I hope
so you're
so.
going to want to you're going to have to balance that with trying to keep your senior players happy. So like Karim Adeyemi or like any of the three guys you mentioned who might start and Fabio Silva, they're going to start getting in closer to the 60th minute because they're going to have to come in before we bring on Inacio in like the 70-75 range. And I think that's going to be coming from the higher ups. And so Kovac is like, I need to make these changes. I need to keep these guys happy. So I'll make it earlier because I'm going to have to bring in this guy later or I'm going to be in trouble with Papavatska.
I'm hoping that we can get a few more goals for Guirassy because anything now can just like push that summer sale price up a little bit.
I don't know. I'm kind of like give him some time off. Let's see what we really have in Fabio Silva. Let's give him some starts.
I mean, that would
there's a
be
very
preferable, I
easy
suppose.
narrative to sell there. I don't think that we'll see that happen quite yet. But once you get to about like 3-5 matches, like once the league's mathematically over
Complete.
and we're mathematically confirmed to be in second, then I think you'll start to see that happen. But that might only be for the last 2 or 3 games. I think there's only like 3 or 4 like easy on paper matches left. This is one of the easier ones, but this isn't one I'm counting. Because Köln are pretty good, but I'm expecting Borussia Dortmund to go into Köln and come away with a victory. I'm going to go 3-1 to Dortmund.
I was going to also say 3-1, but I'm going to go a little different. I think Kobel's going to maybe find his form a little bit. We'll go 3-0 to Dortmund away from home. Get another clean sheet.
Trusting Greg when I've been waiting for him to
not just
prove his
trust in
level
Greg,
for 18 months now.
but I'm going to trust in our back line. I think Nico Schlotterbeck probably isn't satisfied with his last couple performances, so I think he's going to be ready for this one.
That's fair. I also think that like Greg will find a way to like end this season in a like decent place statistically, because I do think he's like not bad, but it's also like I just don't have any faith in him to like turn up in a big game anymore.
Yeah, I do get a little nervous about Greg
Dude,
in big
I'm
games.
heartbroken. I wanted him to be good,
I still do.
but anyway, I still do. I'd be happy to sell now at this point. That was the only thing I'm like upset about is like that. Because I feel betrayed. With Sean now set to be out for several months, do you think Dortmund approach his contract extension differently? I personally feel with Sean that he should get a contract extension for
100%.
a combination of moral and like a break glass in case of emergency as like a kind of bridge to some of the academy guys. Like Reggiani does not look like he's going to be ready for a significant amount of first team minutes next year, but maybe he puts on 20 pounds and learns how to read the game better and becomes like faster somehow while putting on weight. Like aside from that happening, I don't think he's ready for 1,000 senior minutes next year. I don't think Sean is either, but I think like let him rehab and like how often in an ideal
Like,
world does your sixth center back play?
remember the first time Edin Terzic was in charge, that final season, Marcel Schmelzer was on the books as a player the whole season, and it was literally just because of his injury. And I mean, Emre Can isn't going to be out for an entire year, but an ACL is a significant one. And you know, whether there was any chance he wasn't going to get a contract, I mean, like letting a player leave on a basically as a free agent when they probably still have a few months to rehab, it's not the right thing to do. And I don't foresee Dortmund letting him go when he is going to be in the middle of rehabbing his knee. I do think a contract extension at this point with him will probably be a formality. Brings a good locker room presence, but with that injury, he is going to take some rehab. He might not quite be fit right when he comes back. I mean, I know Nico Schlotterbeck recovered pretty quickly, but Schlotterbeck's also like 10 years younger, and you know, and you're
Not 10. He's like 7.
is that it? Because
Sorry.
Emre Can's
No, he's Emre Can is
getting a bit older
32.
now.
Schlotterbeck is
Is
25, so
26?
it's 7.
25. Okay, 7 years older. But you know, it takes people longer to recover from those injuries. But as you said, if you know he's the fifth choice or sixth choice center back, he is a good player to have as a backup if we run into an injury problem or we do bad at transfers again. I don't know. I think it's going to be just a formality at this point. I hope maybe there's a pay cut in
We've
there,
had
but
3 good windows.
we have.
Yeah, there's
Wow.
absolutely gonna be a pay cut. We're talking about a player who this season hasn't even played 1,000 minutes in all competitions. Like 600 in the league, another couple hundred in the Champions League, 90 in the Cup. So we're generally talking about a guy who's gonna make sub 4. There's 2 options here for Borussia Dortmund, and it's basically up to Shan. Like, if Emre Can wants to go and do the Marco Reus retirement tour in the United States and make more money and pay less taxes and all that, whatever, you could see him sign like a 6-month extension. 6 months for him to recover would get him back around September, which I think is fairly reasonable. Like, they are better at that surgery now. It's less invasive. So that's one possibility, because then he would leave on a free to like the US on that window, because I think they're still going to be on the American window rather than the European soccer. It's changing. Their
Yeah, I don't know
the
exactly
calendar
when
here's
though.
changing. But the more likely outcome is I think you just give him 1 year. I
Hmm.
think it ends up. I'd ideally like it to be 3 because he's not gonna really play. Like he's not gonna play. Like Emre Can, my over under for minutes next year is gonna be 500. I'd like to see that at 3 million euros, maybe less. But out of like reputation and stuff, I think it ends up being in that 3.5 to 4 range.
Probably.
Um, which still isn't a lot in terms of Borussia Dortmund. We're talking about like a small percentage of our salary budget, like whatever. Um, so yeah, I think like you said, there's a history of us giving contracts for players out of like moral reasoning. Darius Scuderi is another one. Like we paid for his college because he broke his leg playing for the U19s. Sebastian Kehl on lost revenue in the Champions League. Of course, this does not bode well. We had planned on advancing in the revenue that would come with it, but we will continue on our path and learn from this. We will work through this internally and be able to deal with that. We're talking about like 10 to 15 million euros based off performances in the round of 16 and just making it there. Like it's not a humongous difference. That's basically, like I said earlier in the show, been covered by some of the early sales. I don't think the early sales had really a big effect on it. Not advancing, the only one you could really argue is Anselmino, and we didn't really consent to that, so.
Yeah. Not much to do about that one, unfortunately.
So then, moving on, we have Bild reporting that Dortmund would like to extend Felix Netz's contract. The club is prepared to increase the player's salary from the current 5 to the 7 to 8 million euro range. However, this would not be easy as Nemetcha recently hired a new agent. There has already been a meeting, and per Patrick Berger, Manchester City are interested in Nemetcha, and Felix Nemetcha's agent also said that he still has 2 years left on his contract, and we fully respect that. Borussia Dortmund has played an important role in his development, and he is grateful for that trust and platform the club has given him. At this moment, the focus is very clear. Felix is determined to give his all for Borussia Dortmund, to fight for the club, and to help the team achieve its goals. When the time comes, any discussions about the future will always be conducted respectfully and in consultation with the club. He's gone.
I mean, so
He's gone. He is politically correct, but he is gone.
He changed his agent, which is generally a sign that a player may be looking elsewhere. But he changes his agent, and immediately there's a story in a tabloid about increasing his current wages. And what does that tell potential suitors of Felix Nemetcha from the Premier League? It tells them, oh, that's the amount of money that he could potentially be making in Dortmund. So if we want him, maybe we should offer him more money than that, because the Premier League teams are all owned by billionaires or state entities, most of them at least. But yeah, I kind of hope that he does go. I mean, for the reasons that we've stated on this podcast before, and also for the fact that I think I've seen a couple places report that Dortmund is potentially willing to let him go for 60 or 70 million. And I've been thinking, if a team comes in with an offer for 60 or 70 million for Mecha, we have to take that. I mean, that's like kind of a ridiculous number that I feel like, when in the future would Felix Mecha be worth 70 million euros? I mean, I'm just trying to be reasonable.
How far do you think Pep will kick him when he realizes that he cannot pass? Like, Pep is gonna, oh my god, he's gonna punt him across the pitch.
Can't do the tiki-tack if you can't pass. Or he's just gonna go...
be like, why aren't you looking? Just look! Just look at the guy! You complete the pass if you look at the guy! Sorry, that's my Spanish accent.
Like Bino Gittins, where he'll go somewhere to the Premier League and then just sit on the bench. I don't know.
That's hilarious, dude. That guy he was pouting when he got subbed out of matches, and now look at him.
Yeah, he's not even playing
Oh
matches,
my god.
really. But he's making more
Yeah.
money because it's
Oh
Chelsea.
my god. Oh, he last started a match. Do you want to know when?
November.
Close October.
Oh, oh, that's even worse. So how important do we feel it is for Mecha to extend? I say not important at all.
Um, yeah, I don't think there's a ton that he can do that Joe Bellingham can't do. I don't think more importantly though, I don't think there's any skill that Nemecha has that I don't think you can replace easily on the market. Like,
Bingo. Yep.
he's tall, he dribbles, and he's tall. These are the skills. Like, he he's a good athlete, I guess you could say. He's had one season where he's played a lot of minutes, and that's this year.
He has
This is the
decent
perfect time
physicality.
to sell him. It is the
It
worst
is.
time to give him a contract extension.
Oh, I
Like,
completely
there's the
agree. Yeah.
guy who plays for Morocco. Like, he's tall, he can dribble. He used to be he had the opportunity to represent the US, turned it down. He's French. There's Mohamedou Sangare. He's a couple inches shorter. But when was the last time you saw Felix Nemecha head the ball into the back of the net? Sangare is better defensively. He's a better passer. His dribbling's probably not quite at the level, but it is very good. Um, so that's two guys, and that's like me sitting on my couch, no longer having access to any data whatsoever. If Borussia Dortmund cannot replace Felix Nemecha for, like,
Less than 40?
I don't know, like, I was gonna say Sangare is my ideal option. I think because he moved last summer, he'd be 30. He's the ideal option that I know. I think there's better options available for less money. Um, like, you could go and get any one of the 20-year-olds at Monaco that just started a Champions League knockout match. I'm
True.
sure you could get one of them for around 20 million.
Wonder if
If
there's
West
any
Ham get relegated, they just
promising
signed a defensive midfielder
wonder if
from
there are any
France. Like,
promising
go and get
Bodo
him.
Glint get a couple Bodo Glint players over.
No, they're all kind of prime age for the most part. You do have Casper Yander, who Brian is particularly high on at Southampton. Their last time I checked, they were just outside of the playoff spots, which means they can't be promoted. But even if they get into the playoff spots, you have a 1 in 4 chance, or only one of the four teams will be promoted. So that's a German U21 who's probably going to be available for cheap, even though he moved last summer, because the parachute payments will drop significantly from like 70% to 30%. Um, so that's a guy who could be available for pretty cheap. Um, that's all I have off the top of my head, but like, a lot of these guys are like a little bit different in terms of the profile. Like, Yander's a little bit less of a dribbler, a little bit more of a passer. But my point is, like, there's a lot of guys who are big and can dribble.
Yep.
Um,
The point is
like, if
Felix
you if
Mech's
you
qualities are replaceable.
yeah, absolutely. We also have Gazzetto dello Sport saying AC Milan is in for Grassi this summer.
I mean, I do think,
I'm interested.
yeah. I mean, I think Girassi's probably more than likely leaving this summer. Um, yeah, I'm not too surprised by AC Milan, I suppose. I'm not. I mean, I know there's been a lot of reporting of interest from Saudi clubs. I don't know where Girassi is going to go, but I do think he's going to leave.
Clubs that do bad business:
Yep.
AC Milan, West Ham, Oh, they just said Castellanos, but like if they don't get relegated, Garasi. I don't know who else. Spurs.
Oh,
They're always looking. They got a
that's a good
striker who's
shout.
around 30.
Well, it depends on if
Why
they
not?
get
Why not
relegated.
double up, dude?
Depends on if they get relegated this season. Wonder if Pedro has any thoughts
He's
on that.
guaranteed goals.
True. That is very true. Just don't give him the penalties.
How many I didn't say. Listen, that's just variance. Like next year, he's gonna be a good penalty taker again. Anything else? Oh, we're at an hour, so I think we're kind of ideal.
I think yeah.
We do have to say like and subscribe. Like
Yes,
anywhere you get
please.
podcasts, make sure you follow us, like, subscribe, all that stuff. We're working very hard. We've been giving you more content. We're putting out shorts again on the YouTube. Mainly just me reacting to the matches. But we really appreciate your support on that. The top 5 fantasy people for this week. I don't want to go through this. I forgot to set my lineup. I'm gonna be honest. It was rough for me. Personally, oh my god, it was rough. I was 20th
Oof.
out of 172.
Well, that's not terrible.
The people it was not rough for me, Joey, I worked my way so hard. I grinded for the entire second half of the season. I was top 10 for 1 week, and I lost. I lost it out. Dominica FC did not lose this week. They came in 5th. Notorious in 4th. Pints of Bayer in 3rd. KKPBG in 2nd. And for the first time, KKM bunch of numbers. I think they tried to do 420, but they put the 0 in the wrong spot.
The 402 then? What was the previous one?
Yeah, it's KKM 042969.
And who
So
got
I
second
think
place?
they tried to do like the 42069. KKPBG. I don't know what that means. Please don't clip that.
I was trying to figure out if that was like an acronym or something, but beats me.
I don't want to know. I hope it's not making me look bad. Well, that'll do it for us. Thank you guys, and have a good one.
Thanks for tuning in.